Can I talk? I kind of get nervous when I take tests.
Reaction time is a factor in this, so please pay attention and answer as quickly as you can.
Sorry.
You're in a video store and you notice the VHS tape you're returning isn't rewound.
VHS? What's that?
You know what a Blu-ray is?
Of course.
Same thing.
I never seen a VHS, but I understand what you mean.
You flip the tape over and open up the cassette.
You make these questions, Mr. Tony, or they write them down for you?
The VHS tape needs to be rewound, but it can't, not without your help, and you're not helping.
What do you mean I'm not helping?
They're just questions, Frank. It's a test developed to provoke an emotional response. Shall we continue? Describe in your own words what your favorite 80s sci-fi film is.
Let me tell you what my favorite 80s sci-fi film is.
It is the future now.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, right now, Harrison Ford's running around trying to take down some robots and shit. It's crazy, man.
That's insane. I can't believe it's finally here.
It's finally here. At least we think, because here's the thing, let's just talk about this date. Nobody really knows, I guess, but in Blade Runner 2049, someone sent me a screenshot where when they're looking into the archives of the test, when Deckard meets Rachel, the date says November 20th, 2019. So that would mean they meet, but I've seen timelines that say they meet on the 19th, so maybe it was recorded on the 19th but archived on the 20th. I don't know. We think it's the 20th.
Okay.
But it's not very clear. All we know is the movie, depending which cut you see, I think, says in the beginning November 2019. But I think it was added later. I'm not sure.
I will say I have a little bit of issue with how the future was depicted in this. Because I just recently went to Los Angeles, and I went to the Bradbury building. And yeah, it doesn't look too much like Blade Runner. I mean, they got the trash right. Downtown Los Angeles is full of trash. But there were no hover cars. There was a lot less rain. Yeah, and just not as much neon as you would like.
Yeah,
so the movie got that wrong. The trash they got right, though. There's no bird scooters in Blade Runner's future.
We don't have androids yet.
No. Well, I got an Android phone on me. Does that count?
and my old phone was a Nexus 6P. So.
There we go. That's the same thing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
The plot of the movie, if we just want to run through it, is that in the future there's these androids that are perfected so much that
they're not robots. They're genetically engeneered human things.
Well, did I say androids?
Yeah,
you just said android. That's what they're called in the book.
Yeah,
which I just
not
read.
just that.
Oh, the book is called "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?" Right?
Yeah.
Not in the opening of at least the final cut, they say like robots, and then he calls them machines in it. I don't think
replicants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Deckard says like, they're just like any other machine, or however he says it. But yeah, you definitely don't really know that they're actually like flesh and blood, kind of genetically altered humans until 2049 when they show Rachel's bones.
Yeah,
spoiler alert.
That used to confuse me. Because I'm like, what's the point of this test that asks them the questions? Couldn't you just x-ray them?
I always thought that too, but I guess the point is they're so close to human. I mean, they're more human than human, as Rob Zombie referenced in his song. I guess the idea is that you just can't tell them apart. And they've gotten to the point where they're upset that they have an expiration date, that they're all going to die, and they basically go on a rampage. And then Deckard is called in to take care of them.
Yeah. And he's a Blade Runner.
Yeah, a Blade Runner is one who executes androids, although they don't call it execution, they call it retirement.
Retiring.
So I was always confused by the Blade Runner name. So I just read the book, and I found out that Blade Runner is not in the book. They got the name Blade Runner from a completely different book.
Okay.
And I still don't know what it means, but basically the writer of the movie just thought that name was cool.
It is cool.
It is a cool name.
It's because Blade Runner, the movie, is mostly... It's all style over substance, and anyone can tell you that, basically. From the music on downward to the production design to the miniatures.
I mean, a lot of people are going to debate you on that.
Well, but the Blade Runner was from another book, and it was about people that, like an underground railroad of, medical devices. Okay. So it was actually running scalpels and stuff like that.
That makes more sense. But they're just regular cops in the books. They're not. Well, they're bounty hunters. they're not called Blade Runner. So that's just the name they picked. It's a cool name.
Yeah, I mean,
I
whatever
love
the
the
case,
name.
it's a cool name. Yeah.
I understand why they went with it, but it's like, would have been nice if someone would have just said, hey, by the way, we're called Blade Runners because now I'm just like, what's a Blade Runner?
Yeah. So I really love this movie, but it took me some time. I think every time I see it, it grows on me more.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I didn't know anything about it. All I knew is it had Harrison Ford, and that I knew him from Han Solo, Indiana Jones. So naturally, I expected this would be some kind of action movie.
Yeah.
And I think even when it first came out, it was kind of labeled like an action, or they didn't really know what it was yet. This movie took time for it to really catch on.
Yeah.
And same with me. When I first saw it, I thought it was average. I was like, okay, well, I thought there'd be some more action. I just felt like something was missing from it. Kind of boring. It was slow. And I think it wasn't until college when I talked to a lot of people who were big fans of this movie, and I realized that this movie has a cult following, but I think now it's even more of a cult following.
Yeah.
It's like it might be one of the most influential science fiction movies of this time.
Yeah, like so.
'Cause
I wrote down a list of pretty much things that I really like that Blade Runner inspired. Snatcher, Demolition Man, Einhander, the PlayStation 1 game, Fifth Element, Detroit for the PS4, Johnny Mnemonic, which is fantastic, and of course Ghost in the Shell, which is pretty much almost like same universe.
and Super Mario Brothers, the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, the look
had the
of this,
same art director.
the look of this movie has been imitated by other movies, but I don't think it's ever been surpassed. Like the Judge Dredd movie clearly wanted to look like this. Superman, Batman '89 was trying to look like this, but its matte shots weren't as good. I mean, obviously, the best movie to imitate it was Highlander 2: The Quickening. Flawless, perfect execution. But yeah, I love the look of this movie. It's so cool.
Visually, it's amazing. Like I always loved the visual style. And to be honest, I think we mentioned this in the Fifth Element review too, is that it's heavily influenced by Metropolis. So really, Metropolis is the one to credit for all this. But Blade Runner popularized it in the modern cinema and games, like you mentioned.
And much like Metropolis, there's multiple cuts of it. What cut of Blade Runner did you watch first?
That I originally saw?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there were as many cuts when I first saw it.
The final cut was 2007.
But there was a director's cut before that.
Yeah, like when I saw it, I think there was only the theatrical cut, the European cut, or the international cut.
Yeah.
And then there was like a rough cut, I think, also.
The work print cut.
Yeah. And then the director's cut, and then usually the director's cut's like the final say, but then there was the final cut. And it also, this is a lot like the situation with Star Wars, how it keeps getting, revamped.
Yeah.
They also did a lot of digital touch-ups in this movie, and nobody talks about it as much.
Because it works here.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Like, they fixed things that were kind of just didn't look right to begin with. Like, there's a part where there's a weird mouth sync, like when he's on the other side of the glass and he's asking about the snake scale. You could see the voice is not matching because
the audio in this entire, aside from the music by Vangelis, which is amazing, but the audio in this, like, you need to watch it with subtitles or you won't know what the fuck is going on. Like, it is terrible. Especially when he's behind glass and all that stuff. Like, it's tough.
What they did, they took his son Ben Ford and they had him like say the lines again, and they used his chin and they put it on there. And you can't tell. I mean, it looks really good.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
I don't mind things like that because we talked
the girl who the only other one I gotta mention is that the girl who one of the replicants who he shoots down through the glass, and she's like running. She's wearing like that transparent
the snake
like
girl,
jacket, and she runs through all the glass. And when they shot that, they used a stunt double, obviously. But all these years later, they got the original actress back and they green screened her face and they put her face. And it must have been a ton of work because when she's going through that glass and you see all those reflections in the way and everything, it's just amazing they were able to do that. And you can't tell. Like, it just looks like she was there.
Yeah. And I don't mind little stuff like that because it doesn't change the story except for the unicorn, which we'll get into later.
Oh, okay.
But
boy.
So I don't
and we got that in the voiceover talk about. Go ahead.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about the voiceover.
Okay.
Other than
the happy ending.
Other than Ridley Scott trying to shoehorn the is Deckard a replica thing. All the other changes are fine. And I talked about when we did the Blob remake, I talked about how like some of the composite shots look weird. Yeah. And it's like, I would love someone to just color correct it just a little bit so it matches and looks better. And like, I don't mind if movies do that.
Or do it to the original.
Yeah, or do the original. I think just Lucas and Spielberg gave such a bad name to special editions and re-edits.
Yeah.
Because they added stupid bullshit that did not need to be in there, and a lot of it looked terrible.
But there's also a lot in Star Wars that worked, like things that were like, okay, well, you fixed that up, that's cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if it was just that, but then, like, changing the shotguns to walkie-talkies, there's nothing that in Blade Runner. Except for the unicorn. But, like, there's nothing, like, jarring like that takes you out of the movie. It looks like it could have been a movie. Like, it looks like it is a movie from that time. You don't notice the alterations.
Yeah,
so I like that.
Yeah, it was done well. But there are some major things, like there's the voiceover. Now, I never really minded the voiceover. Like, I can take it or leave it. I just don't care.
Have you listened to it recently?
No.
Listen to it.
Is it like, my name's Deckard and I'm a Blade Runner?
Because I always hear that, like, it was really terrible. Like, he did it terribly on purpose so that, like, they wouldn't use it.
He didn't want to do it.
But I don't know, because it's a film noir movie. Film noir refers to a period of film. It's not exactly, but it's a modern, it's a neo-noir or tech noir, as you can call it, because it blends science fiction and film noir. But it really nails all the other film noir aspects, so it makes sense that because all those movies use voiceovers. Yeah. It makes sense that Blade Runner would have a voiceover like that. So the idea of having a voiceover did not bother me at all. If you're saying the execution's that bad, then I really got to hear it again.
You got to listen to, because the first time I saw it was the theatrical cut. I watched it on TV. It was just on TV one day, and I started in like the middle because I was just like, oh, Blade Runner. I heard about this movie, and then I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on, so I stopped watching it. Yeah. But then I watched the final cut years later. But yeah, I went back recently and I listened to the voiceovers, and they are terrible because he did read them bad on purpose, so they wouldn't use it, and then they used it.
The charmer's name was Gaff. I'd seen him around. Bryant must have upped him to the Blade Runner unit. That gibberish he talked was city speak, gutter talk, a mishmash of Japanese, Spanish, German, what have you. I didn't really need a translator. I knew the lingo every good cop did.
The unicorn thing, I never really got. I was just like, okay, this is weird.
Okay. So I can explain it. One, I think it's test footage for the movie Legend, because that has unicorns in it. Two, the idea is...
I get that they put the idea in his head, but...
if Deckard is a replicant, that's like a thing they put in his head, and then his partner, Gaff, Edward James Olmos, makes the unicorn to kind of imply, like, hey, I know you're a replicant, I know what they put in your head. But, like, there's not really any point to him being a replicant.
No, and that's, like, I liked it when the idea was... maybe he's a replicant. They never actually explain it. But Ridley Scott's been asked the question. He's like, oh, yeah, of course he's a replicant.
And then Harrison Ford's like, no.
And then 2049 doesn't really, like... I saw it when it was in theaters, but I don't remember a ton from it. Do they ever say if he's not, right? Clearly
I mean, I think it's implied that he's not.
Yeah.
Because then Gaff is also old, and they're supposed to have an expiration date, unless they're a new model that didn't have one. But I don't know. I think it works with him not being a replicant. That's why I don't like that.
Because there's the part where they show the eyes, where his eyes glow.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if that was in the original cut.
Well, the thing is, they get that effect because they put the camera at the right angle. I think they did it in Metropolis as well. And if someone walks by at the same angle, like when Rachel's looking at him in the bathroom, when his face is all cut up after he gets beat up, it just happens to be the same. Like, I don't think they added it. I think it was just the effect, like doubled up.
Yeah. I don't know. I like him not being a replicant. And I think the idea comes... There is a part in the book where that version of Deckard, he finds another, like, police station that's run by Andes or androids. And he starts to, like, feel bad about killing androids to the point where, like, he gives himself the test because maybe like, the idea pops in his head.
Okay.
And it's just... He's not an android, but it kind of hints like, hey, like, he does... The idea of sympathizing with an android is so foreign to him that when he starts to do it, he just starts questioning himself. But I think it's just him, like, starting to just sympathize. And then then Ridley Scott just... Because I don't think Ridley Scott read the book, so he just added that idea into the movie, and... I don't know. I don't like it. Some people like it. I think it works either way.
Yeah, my favorite part of this film is just the world building outside of it.
Yeah.
Like when they talk about, like, oh, go live off world, or like, you know, the replicants came from, you know, wars out there in fucking space, and Rutger Hauer's characters, the frickin' Tears in Rain.
Which he improv that line about all the memories are gone like tears in the rain.
Yeah.
He just came
wow.
that whole final thing. He just ad-libbed.
Wait, the whole thing about like the Tannhauser gate and C-beams and shit. Because that's the best part. Because you're thinking like, oh, there's just some intergalactic war out there, and he just made it up.
He just winged it.
And he caught that fucking white dove, which may be one of the robot doves the J.F. Sebastian made, but they don't really explain that.
So that's another thing that the movie only hints on. It's the title of the book. Like you said, is to Andrew. In the book, like owning an actual animal is like a what is it?
Status symbol.
Status symbol. Like, hey, you have a lot of money. You're like someone who's important. You can afford a real animal.
Yeah, because there was like an ecological disaster. And
because animals are hard to get. And what you call it? Deckard in the book, him and his wife, who's not in the movie, they have an electric sheep, and he's like, I want like a real animal. So like a lot of the book is mostly just him just really wanting a goddamn goat.
Okay.
And he gets a goat. And he's like real thrilled about it, and all this other stuff happens. But like the movie doesn't go into that too much. They show that Deckard is constantly asking about people's animals. He's just like, "Hey, is that owl real?" And they're like, "No." Is that snake real? They're like, "What the hell? No, you think if I could afford a snake, I would be here?"
Yeah, he has an electric sheep.
Yeah,
like Sheep Man and Mega Man.
Yes,
or Mareep and Pokemon.
Yeah, it's just so weird to see like this big part of the book just whittled down to just two scenes in this movie. I'm like, oh, okay.
Did not know animals were such a big part of the book. But now that scene makes a lot more sense with the owl. That's really cool now.
It makes sense when you see like the Las Vegas ecological disaster in 2049 and how LA is so rainy when usually it isn't, and everyone's living off world. Pretty much like there was some awful disaster because of pollution, like just world building stuff that they don't actually tell you.
Like that's where the dystopian part comes in, but there isn't really a lot of
it's not the point of the movie.
And it's implied that like you have to be like rich or important to live off world, because the toy maker, who's based off a character in the book, he has a disease where he ages real fast.
And he's like, I can't leave the planet.
He's like, I'm not allowed to leave. So it's like, only like certain desirable people are allowed to leave the planet, which they go into in the book. Like he's called special. Like anyone with like a mutation or stuff, they're below androids.
So you know that Deckard's apartment is the house on Haunted Hill?
Really?
Wait, what? Oh my god! It's clicking in my head, the design. Oh my god.
Yeah. Now, I looked into it. Now, apparently they shot most of it on a soundstage.
Yeah.
Which they did with House on Haunted Hill also.
In Burbank, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It's somewhere in California.
Yeah.
But it's called the Ennis House. They use the exterior for House on Haunted Hill, and when he's entering his apartment, I guess there is at least one shot where they use the real place.
That design, when I was rewatching it, I'm like, that design looks familiar, and I couldn't figure it out. God damn it.
Another random thing is when like his former boss or whatever is giving him the whole scoop on the replicants that got loose, and he's like, all right, so there's these foreskin jobs that got loose, and I'm like, for the longest time I thought he was saying foreskin jobs, and I was like, wait a minute, is he going to elaborate on that? Like, wait a minute.
And why are they on the loose?
Yeah.
Wait, having foreskin is a punishable offense in the future.
Well, having loose
foreskin. What if this was foreskin jobs? And
no, that's what I'm saying. You have to watch it with subtitles.
Yeah.
even the subtitles.
Now I'm just picturing a remake of Blade Runner where that's the only difference. They're not Asian, they just have foreskin. Like, I don't know how the girl would fit into that, but it's like, it's gotta get those assholes.
Is Harrison Ford a rabbi? He's doing circumcision.
Some oil going.
Boy, that
I mean, I just love the visual style of this movie so much. Like, I just love the neon and the rain and all the advertisements that are floating around. It's like a real depressing version of Times Square.
It got me real hyped for Cyberpunk 2077 that's coming out. Keanu Reeves, also in Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, yeah.
And I started looking up more stuff about, like, cities that kind of look like it nowadays, like Los Angeles in the future. And, like, Dubai's pretty close. Shenzhen above Hong Kong. Hong Kong itself, some parts in Tokyo. Maybe Times Square, not really. And it is interesting to see.
I like the movie. I've never been super into it. I think because the story is weak in a few places.
Yeah.
And I think my one problem with it is I listen to the soundtrack a lot to help me go to sleep.
Oh, okay.
I think the soundtrack's really good, and I love the visuals, and it is slow moving, and I love slow moving sci-fi, but I think the combination of it, it's just real hypnotic, and it just gets me tired, and that's why I never got... and the same thing with the movie Legend, which I love Legend. The director's cut of Legend.
Yeah.
The director's cut. That's another movie where, like, I love it, but, like, I use it to help me go to sleep because it's just real hypnotic. I don't know what those two Ridley Scott movies.
What is that like? Does Tony dream of electric sleep? I don't know.
So like I the only thing is I keep watching this movie over and over again just to try and get a little more something out of it every time. But I always feel like I'm not quite up to the level that most people who really love this movie are.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's something else to it that I'm not picking up on. And I once asked a friend in college, I was like, look, I mean, this movie looks awesome, but what is it that you like the most about it? Like, what do you get out of this movie? And he said, it's all about the questions it asks. It asks what it means to be a human. And I don't quite get that out of the movie, but I do get I think it's a great idea about the androids not liking the expiration date, because it's like, it begs the question, like, well, why do we all have an expiration date? Why are all people doomed to die at some point? So it does kind of do that, but it doesn't really. It brings up the idea, but it doesn't really go into it a lot. Like, I don't feel sympathetic towards the replicants at all. I mean, they're going around killing people, and it's like, it doesn't. I would have liked the chance to sympathize with the replicants more over that.
I mean, there's also a lot of like Frankenstein's monster coming to kill the creator by gouging his eyes out.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So I feel like the ideas are rich, but I just don't think the execution is there. Like, they didn't really. It doesn't come out in the story as much.
I mean, the original cut was like 4 or 5 hours. It went way over budget. The frickin' actors and crew hated Ridley Scott.
Oh, yeah. You hear stories like Harrison Ford did not like Ridley Scott at all.
He just, like, I think it would have been enough just to, like, kind of
crush his skull.
Yeah, and, like, you hear a sound effect, like he breaks his neck. But instead, it's, like, just gouging the eyes and there's blood coming out. I'm like, nowhere else in the movie do you really have anything that graphic. Like, and fine, I like a lot of graphic stuff, but this here just comes, like, out of place.
But then he also kills JF Sebastian, but they don't show it.
Yeah, they don't show it. Do you know who played Tyrell?
Yeah. Wait, hang on. I know who it is.
You're gonna get it, don't worry.
The Shining, right?
Yeah.
He's the bartender.
Lloyd, is that his name?
Yeah,
Lloyd.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I was like going on IMDb. I'm like, who is that guy? Because I'm also reading the Shining book right now. I'm like, that's Lloyd. What did you think of the second movie, James?
Well, you told me that there is a second movie somewhere way before 2049.
Oh, yeah, obviously. We all know the real Blade Runner 2, right? Soldier, starring Kurt Russell. Written by one of the guys who wrote Blade Runner.
Now, what is this, like a spiritual sequel?
Yeah, it's not like on paper a sequel. It's a I mentioned before in the Event Horizon review that it was part 2 of Paul W. Anderson's attempt to be Ridley Scott. First one was Event Horizon. The last one was Alien vs. Predator. Failed all 3 times. But Soldier's not that bad.
It's okay.
It's okay. They had a lot of production issues, which hurt it. But basically...
and there was a bunch of actors from Event Horizon in that.
Yeah. So basically, in that universe, Kurt Russell is a soldier. He's not a replicant. He's basically just trained to be a soldier, and he gets replaced by these genetically enhanced guys who may be replicants. The movie never really says. But they mention one of the battles that whatchamacallit mentions. Yeah. Because the movie takes place in like 2030 something, so it's like in between the 2 movies.
Okay.
And it's fine. There is a Blade, the Spinners.
So we could do that one in 10 years.
Yeah. The Spinners, the police cars, because he ends up on a trash planet off-world, and they're in there. So there's stuff that ties to Blade Runner. The writer of the movie said it's a sidequel. He's like, yeah, it's a spin-off sidequel to Blade Runner. But I would check that out. And then I finally saw 2049, and I thought it was okay.
Did you watch all the other things?
Yeah, I watched the anime.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
I loved the one with Batista. I thought Batista was really good. Well, I guess we'll review 2049 in 30 years.
I'll be back in 10 years.
You know what? It may happen. Hey, Raid 2020. Probably. It's happened. Yeah.